that will do it for today. If you have a comment, email me, box13@greatdetectives.net. I welcome your story or that of loved ones who served during World War II. Ken Curlin provides our opening theme music, kencurlin.com. I am your host, Adam Graham. This series
Welcome
is
to the
provided
War
as a
from
service
Boise,
of the Great
Idaho.
Detectives
This is
of
your
Old
host,
Time Radio.
Adam Graham.
GreatDetectives.net.
If you have a comment, send it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Well, today we're going to bring you one final episode of This Is War. The title of this episode is To the Young, and the original air date was May the 2nd of 1942.
Sorry, I didn't see you.
Well, that's all right. Gosh, I'm drowsed off.
Me too. Well, look, it's getting light.
Morning.
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 My back aches.
The uniforms are all wrinkled.
Girl, I suppose these steps weren't made to sleep on.
Tired?
Nice with you in my arms. I wish it could always be like this.
It will be.
Think so, darling? Think I'll be back? Got a big mess to clean up before we get back. We're not sailing for a Boy Scout convention, you know?
Yes, I know. Are you afraid, Tom?
Was at first.
Afraid?
Afraid they wouldn't take me.
Oh. I love you, Tom.
I love you, Betty. I guess that's one of the things this war is about.
About us?
About all young people like us. About love and getting hitched. Having a house and kids, breathing fresh air out in the suburbs like this. Well, about living and working decent like free people.
Tom,
What?
I'm gonna miss you, but
But what?
I'm gonna be proud while I'm missing you.
This is War. The four major networks again join to present the 12th in their series of broadcasts for wartime America. To the Young, by Norman Corwin.
We go off to the war, guys like Tom and me. We come home to pack a few things, get around as though we're nothing at all. Make it seem just as though you were going away on a 2-week vacation at Pine Point. Get out the old letters from your girl and read them. Take another look at the newspaper clips about how you won the hurdles and attacked meet with Sacred Heart. Scored a touchdown against James Madison. You unstring your guitar, put your tennis racket away in a frame, then you come downstairs. Mom and Pop are standing there. You hug Mom. Give Pop a friendly poke in the ribs. You don't know what else to do. Then you grab your duffel bag. So long, Mom. I'll write you. What? Aren't you going to say anything, Mom? Well, so long, Dad. Take it easy.
Goodbye, Bill. Good luck, boy.
while, you're sitting in the train, watching the country roll by. You feel so lonely. Think of the folks. Your girl, Alice. Your dog, Nick. The Joyland Dance Palace down at Silver Lake, now that the nights are getting warm. Then after a spell of that, your eye happens to catch a couple of billboards. You read them. A few seconds it takes for the train to move past.
40 miles to the Jefferson Hotel, centrally located, baths with each room.
You wonder how many miles to where you're going. And how centrally it's located. And whether there's hot and cold running water in the pillbox. There's another sign.
Visit New England this summer, the playground of the East.
You wonder whether you'll visit Old England this summer. Or maybe New Caledonia. Or New Guinea or New Zealand. And then it comes to you with a jolt that this thing that you're on your way to fight is called the New Order. Actually, it's the oldest racket in the world. As old as Pharaoh and the first slave. And there's another billboard.
Remember Pearl Harbor.
As though anybody could forget. As though any American worth the price of a morning paper on December the 8th could ever forget. Yet you wonder about that sign. I wonder whether it's such a good idea to keep remembering the shame and treachery of that day. You wonder whether you've been training for a year just to avenge some massacres in Warsaw and Rotterdam. Or whether you've been getting ready to do something bigger than revenge, something greater. Maybe the biggest thing that ever happened in the history of civilization.
Excuse me, son. Have you got a match on you?
Yeah, I think so. Oh, yeah, somewhere. Yeah, here. Keep them. I got some more.
Thanks very much.
Yes, sink back in your chair again. Close your eyes. You muse about what kind of a world it's going to be when you're as old as that man across the aisle who just asked you for a light. Then there's a little surge in your blood as you realize that it's young men like yourself all over the earth who are going to answer that question. Those who have lived the least will make the most of their lives. And then a half dreamy thought comes to you out of the clicking wheel. This very night, this very hour, millions of young fellas like yourself are out working on the same job as you. Each one of them with folks at home and a girl named Alice and a dog named Nick. And you wonder, does a guy your age in England feel the way you do? Does a Russian fighter have your kind of thoughts? Does a Chinese private dream of what's to come? It warms your heart to think of your comrades, all the young folks in the fight. You wonder how it'd be to drop in on them here and there among the nations you're united with. Ask them questions. Help them lift a bomb into the racks. Drink a beer with them. Talk shop talk about the job you're on. About the world that's in the works. You wonder how a Tommy feels. How you'd get along with a red soldier. You wonder what's cooking around China. You wonder so hard that in a minute off you go around the world finding out for yourself.
Jenny's the prettiest number I've taken out.
I can see why you're nuts about it.
Long and slim. That's the way I like them. She travels in fast company.
Did she behave all right Wednesday night?
Oh, gave me everything I asked. Even with all that ack fire around us over Rostock, she handled beautifully. Well, the headwind slowed her down on the return, you know, but she still was fast enough to get away from those Heinkels.
Uh-huh. You ought to see our P-39.
Oh, I can hardly wait to fly one. I say, Edna, will you bring some more tea, please?
Righto.
Will you have time?
Sure. Look, tell me, Bill, how are they taking the war back in the States?
By and large, fine. Everybody's pitching in.
Huh?
There are still some crabbers, of course.
Oh, young people?
No. Old experts, mostly. Kicking about this and that, telling the Army and Navy how to run the war.
Yes, we had the same thing here for a while. Funny, isn't it? The blokes who do all the squawking and yammering are never the ones who do any of the fighting.
Yeah, some people give their lives, other people give their opinions.
Yes, quite. Tell me, is there any anti-British sentiment?
Well, the fifth and the sixth columns are doing their best to plant it and to nurse it along. But, you know, there's always a crackpot market for anything that's anti-sensible or anti-decent.
The good old Axis errand boys. Oh, you know, Bill, it's getting pretty late for that kind of stuff. I mean, when a maniac's loose in the house, there's no time to argue about who left the door open. Good Lord, man, you and I'd get absolutely nowhere if we spend all our time blaming the old fools who made the big mistakes 5 and 10, 20 years ago. The idea now is to go out and give the Axis hell and win the war and do it soon.
And when it's won, to see that it stays one.
Exactly. To have our say in the kind of world we're pulling out of the fire. There's no reason why anybody in the world...
Ready to go in 2 minutes. Ready, Hollister?
Oh, right with you.
Ready.
Look, Bill, I've got to run now.
Oh, it's been swell to sit here and talk with you.
Yes, well, one thing I wish you'd carry away with you, old man.
Yeah.
It seems to me the world's shrunk a lot since we were kids. Now, it's overnight from New York to London if you buy a ship as good as my Jenny. We're not far apart anymore, not in miles or anything else. We are fighting the same scrap. There are no longer a dozen big powers in the world. There are only two, good and evil. Whatever a man's accent may be, whether it's Cockney or Yorkshire or Brooklyn and Midwest or Russian or Chinese, he's fighting on one side, and that's our side. And, well, that man's a brother of mine, and he can wear my shirt and borrow my gun. Bill, give it to him. See you in Berlin.
So long, Fred. Cockney, Brooklyn, Midwest, or Russian. It's a small world, all right. The accent doesn't matter anymore. The accent now is on youth. The accent's on victory. Give it to them, Fred. Carry it home. They don't like the war in their own backyard. They prefer to fight in somebody else's. It's an old German custom. Fly fast, kid, and fly straight. But at that, I'll be over Germany before you. I'm on my way to Russia, Fred, to see a fighting man named Peter.
You all right, Bill?
Yeah. Won't they spot us in the street?
Not if you don't move. Don't talk loud either. They're on the lookout for guerrillas.
What do you make in the telescope?
Take a look. Nazi field headquarters. They think they're well hidden, deep inside their own lines. I know the country a little better than they.
What's that car there?
Staff car. When they come out and climb into the car, that's when I go to work. Me. Katarina.
Katarina?
My sweet machine gun here. My little Katarina. My best girl.
Hey, Pete, what's that plane?
Nazi scout plane. Looking for guerrillas. You haven't seen any guerrillas in these woods, have you, Bill? Better keep your head low.
You've been guerrilla fighting long?
2 months. Fought with the army of the Southern Front when we stopped the Nazis at Rostov. Then when we began to drive them back, I was sent to train guerrillas in the occupied areas.
You know something, Pete?
What?
We Americans certainly had a screwy idea about you, Red.
Screwy? What means screwy?
I mean, twisted, queer. Somebody lied to us, Pete. They must have done a lot of lying over a long period of time.
So?
They told us you had a badly trained army, that you had no planes, that all your good generals had been killed off, that you were all starving to death. They told us you had no constitution, no faith.
Does America understand us any better now?
Oh, yes. But there's still some people who call you a menace. They say we'll have to fight you when we've both licked the Axis.
This is cruel. Who says that? Young people? Your soldiers and sailors?
No. A few cranks. And some editors. And the Axis radio. But the vast majority of Americans think you're doing a great job, and they're solidly behind you. We're not taken in by any new variations on the old lies.
You know what Blazowski said about the losses we have inflicted on the Nazis?
No, what did he say?
He said, we have destroyed a generation of Germans.
You have, at that.
That means, Bill, we have helped to make free in the world that you and I will grow old in all the generations after us. This is a solemn thing to think about. Terrible. America is fighting with us. That's good. We Russians can beat Hitler here this year if we get some help.
Pete, do you think our countries will be good friends in the days to come?
Why not? Both of us have this same kind of aim. To help the common people live a better life.
You think they'd win?
Don't make a sound. They're coming out.
Many of them.
6. A Major General among them. Here, hold the cartridge belt, Tovarich. Steady now.
That was the Germany I grew up in. Well, let's get back to these dishes. Don't they sing that anymore, Hans? No. They sing about the super race which will conquer the world. They sing about the decay of democracy and how they'll whip America. Do you remember any of those songs? Do you know the tune, O Tannenbaum, O Tannenbaum? O Tannenbaum, O Tannenbaum, wie grün sind deine Blätter. Mel and my Mel. Yeah, same tune. Old German folk song. Well, the Nazis have new words for it. America, America, oh filthy land, America. Democracy is a disease. We'll whip you till you're on your knees. America, America, oh filthy land, America. I suppose they teach that to the kids. It's for the older boys. Kids have their own hymns. Hans, was it hard for you to make up your mind to desert to the Russian lines? Oh, man is a traitor only when he betrays his country. I have not betrayed Germany by deserting Hitler. To the contrary. Now I can hope to join those who are really fighting for my country. Even if it's only kitchen police. That's a good way to put it. That's the way I've been putting it for 5 years. Since 1937, I was in the underground movement. All that time? I'm a Catholic. Remember when the Nazis killed our priests and jailed Cardinal Faulhaber and tore down the crucifixes in our schools to put up pictures of Hitler? Well, right at that time, I began the desertion which finished when I crept over the lines the other day. As far back as that, I saw that the Nazis were destroying not only Catholic youth, but all youth. Youth in Germany has one function: fuel for the war machine. Still, I tell you, Hitler burns up youth the way a motor burns up gas. Oh, that thing of building up boys to be soldiers is merely a kind of a refining process. The way you refine oil. Hans, there have been barbarians before. Natural barbarians. But this is the first time that human beings have been trained to be barbarians. Trained? You should see those poor kids in school getting the daily injection of poison. Why, there isn't a single subject which has not been perverted. This is class in nature studies.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, Vera. Now, this morning we are going to draw conclusions from our trip in the field yesterday. Albert, tell me, what did you see?
We saw an anthill.
Yeah?
And beetles and a beehive and birds.
Yes. And everywhere you looked, you saw how nature uses the pure principle. The principle of leadership. One thing you did not see, and that is the principle of democracy. Now, everywhere in nature, the leader has to be obeyed. The strong rules over the weak. You noticed how the ants did what was assigned to them without questioning. Now, class, which ants saw to it that the commands of the Führer ant were carried out?
The soldier ant.
Correct. You see, nature is very wise about all things, and nature intended soldiers to be the most important of all living creatures. When you grow up, you will be soldiers for Adolf Hitler. That is the highest glory in the world, to die for us.
Or take a class in arithmetic. You might think, Bill, that stuff like 2 times 2 could not be distorted. But to the Nazis, every problem is a chance to drive another nail into a kid's head.
Here is your homework problem for tonight. In the year 1933, there were 66,060,000 inhabitants in the German Reich, of whom 499,682 were despicable Jews. What was the percentage of Jews then? Also, find out the number of inhabitants in the Reich today and the corresponding number and percentage of Jews.
They stop at no absurdity, of course. No lies too ridiculous. What else can children do but believe? You believed your teachers, didn't you? The kids in the drawing class draw soldiers and tanks and planes. The kids in chemistry class learn about poison gas and fire bombs. They grow up believing war is the only goal in life. That dying for Hitler is the supreme achievement. That bearing babies for the new order is the highest duty of womankind.
Hans, you have a girl back home in Germany?
Yes. Anna. She's in the underground, too. Hope to heaven she's safe. And that she'll be there when it's ended. I hope there'll be a few young men like you and me left in Germany to undo all this twisted wreckage, to bring the light back to the people. It's been so long. So very long. We must win, Bill. This can't go on in Germany forever. It must be destroyed before all our young are broken and bled white. The unspeakable shame for the once proud name of Germany. The shame before all men and all history from now until the end of time. The shame that our great fatherland knows not its own son. I'm sorry, I lost myself.
No, Hans. No, you found yourself. You found yourself 5 years ago when most of the boys your age gave in to Adolf and his gangster bums. Don't worry, we'll do what you're asking. We got some great guys and gals fighting on our side. Guys named Fred and Peter, and gals named Jenny and Katerina. And over in China, where they've been standing with their backs to the wall since long before any of the rest of us knew what it was all about, they're still in there fighting. Yes, sir, that's where I'm going next. And when we win, kid, you'll get back to Anna. And I'll get back to Alice. And the world will get back to decency. You can bank on that.
Yes, we have come a long way, Mr. Bill. We were a pacifist people and a very old people in our hearts and in our minds.
I know, Miss Shen. I'm afraid a lot of Americans had the idea that China was made up mostly of laundrymen and Confucius. When the Japs first took you on, we thought you'd be knocked out in a couple of weeks.
You cannot defeat a fighting people if they want to fight. We are young now, as America is young. We are united now after all those years of revolution. We have given much to the world in the past, And we give much now. And in time to come, we shall give more. We shall know each other better.
I hope so, Miss Jen. And I believe so. I've been talking to other young folks, young fighting people, and they feel just the same way. No more splendid isolation when this one's over. Freedom in China is freedom in Texas, and Maine, and Iowa, and California. If we haven't learned that by now, we'll never learn it.
Will you take the tiller for a while? I will go below and cook something for all of us.
Yes, sure. Hey, this is some river. It's as wide as our Mississippi. Now, tell me, Miss Chen, how many of these junks have you moved upstream since the Japs bombed you out?
About 20. But we have not far to go now. We will set up the university again as soon as we reach Chongqing.
Gosh. Who'd ever think of moving a college 2,000 miles and carrying the whole works on donkeys and junk?
The Chinese will think of it. Mr. Bill, we have moved more than 100 of our universities this way. In China, education does not continue in spite of war, but because of war. We want young China to be ready after the victory, ready with the knowledge that will be needed to make the good life in a good world.
You know, Miss Yen, what's that?
Young Chinese soldiers on their way to the Burma front. They are saluting you.
Oh.
Wave to them.
Hi. Hi there, fellas. How's it going, fellas? The same to you. Give 'em hell when you get there. Good luck, fellas. Look out of the window and you see your country rolling by. The night's falling. Lights are going on in the farmhouses. And somehow you're not sad anymore. Those lonely thoughts are no longer with you. Somehow you're not alone now. And you feel that you'll never be alone again. Because riding in the coach with you is Fred of the RAF, Peter the gorilla polishing his gun, and Hans and Anna of the underground, and young Miss Jen of China. And you know that everywhere tonight, the young are fighting, and the young are dying, fighting for themselves and all the future young, the yet unborn, will read about it calmly and talk about it and think about it in a world made wholesome by the fire and the blood. The train goes whistling through the night, through the same night that blacks out London, spreads eastward over France and Belgium, Norway, Denmark, Greece. The night that never will give way today in any country, anywhere, if fascism should win the fight. And you know that it's all or nothing. Youth and freedom or the living death. You feel in your bones. It'll be all right. It'll be a long one and a tough one. But it'll be all right. Because of guys like Fred and Hans and Peter and Miss Shen. And guys like you.
You have just heard To the Young, written and directed by Norman Corwin. Joseph Julian played the role of Bill. The music was composed and conducted by Johnny Green. Next week at this same time, the four major networks again unite the resources of American radio to present the last in their series of broadcasts for Wartime America. Yours received and contents noted by Norman Corwin. This is war.
Welcome back. This is an episode I debated playing because it's got almost an ironic feel as you look back at it, particularly the part with Russia, where basically the assurance that no, we wouldn't become global enemies who would spend nearly half a century at odds while possessing enough weapons to destroy the world. I think in reality that Washington, and certainly London, was aware that the alliance that occurred during the war was going to be temporary, and that you were dealing with a situation of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. In one way, the newspapers who wrote this were correct factually, but it was not the time to be saying that. Because when you're in the midst of the war, you don't need to be looking down the road as to what's going to happen after the war is over. The Chinese part really struck me as particularly tragic. The Chinese had suffered through many more years than anyone else of Japanese imperialism, domination, and overall war, and pretty soon after the defeat of Japan, they would then have to deal with the regime of Mao, which would leave somewhere between 60 and 80 million people dead. Of course, unlike Russia, there was no way of knowing that this was going to be the outcome at the time that the program was recorded. And so the dreams of youth fought for freedom were in some cases not realized for decades later, and in some cases still aren't quite realized today. The work of securing liberty was one that only began with the war. It didn't end with it.